In the year 1890, if you were feeling faint, anxious, or simply weary from the pressures of Victorian high society, your doctor wouldn't suggest rest. They wouldn't suggest a change in diet or a holiday by the sea. Instead, they would hand you a beautiful, ornate bottle of Scheele's Green. It was the era's miracle tonic, the liquid vitality promised to restore the glow to your cheeks and the strength to your spirit. But inside that elegant glass lay the primary ingredient for modern chemical warfare: hydrogen cyanide. You weren't being cured. You were being systematically, elegantly, and legally erased.
The era of elegant poison. To understand how a lethal poison became a household staple, we have to understand the Victorian obsession with the color green. In the 19th century, a vibrant emerald hue known as Scheele's Green was the height of fashion. It was achieved using copper arsenate, and it was everywhere. It adorned the nursery walls of the wealthy, dyed the shimmering silk of ball gowns, and even colored the wax of candles on grand dinner tables. As night fell and gas lamps were lit, these emerald rooms would literally begin to breathe as the heat released arsenic vapors into the air. Yet, as high society families began to drop dead from mysterious respiratory illnesses and wasting diseases, the medical community didn't look at the walls or the fashion plates. They looked at the stomach. They were blinded by the very elegance they sought to preserve. This was an age of industrial wonder, where chemistry was seen as a magic trick, and the potential for long-term toxicity was a concept yet to be born. The obsession with status and aesthetic beauty had created a gilded cage, where every comfort was laced with a slow-acting death. Doctors of the time were largely governed by the miasma theory, the outdated belief that disease was exclusively carried by bad air, foul smells, or even moral failings. When affluent patients complained of heart palpitations, cold sweats, and a tightening chest, it was rarely diagnosed as environmental poisoning. Instead, it was labeled the vapors, or hysteria, terms that dismissed the physical reality in favor of a psychological scapegoat. And the cure prescribed by the finest medical minds of London? More tonic. Specifically, proprietary blends containing trace amounts of prussic acid, the historical name for hydrogen cyanide. They were attempting to treat the symptoms of one poison by introducing another, far more efficient killer into the bloodstream.
The science of silent death. So, what does cyanide actually do to the human body? Unlike other poisons that take days to destroy organs or cause visible trauma, cyanide is a master of molecular efficiency. It doesn't stop your heart in the traditional sense. Rather, it stops your cells from breathing. To understand this, we have to look inside the mitochondria, the tiny power plants that fuel every heartbeat and every thought. Within these power plants sits an enzyme called cytochrome C oxidase. This enzyme is the gatekeeper of oxygen. Its job is to facilitate the transfer of electrons to create ATP, the universal currency of biological energy. Cyanide acts like a rusted iron key jammed into a delicate lock. It has a high affinity for the ferric iron within that enzyme, binding to it with such ferocity that the entire process of cellular respiration grinds to a halt. It effectively locks the door to oxygen. The tragedy of cyanide poisoning is that the blood remains saturated with oxygen. The lungs are doing their job, and the arteries are full of life-giving red, but the cells simply cannot touch it. They are starving in a sea of plenty. In the low, chronic doses found in Victorian tonics, this cellular starvation caused a subtle, creeping catastrophe. It produced a lightheadedness and a strange cherry red flush to the skin, a symptom of oxygen-rich blood having nowhere to go. Victorians mistook this sickly glow for spiritual lifting and the blush of youthful vitality. But beneath the surface, the central nervous system and the heart, the two systems most dependent on constant energy, were the first to fail. As the poison built up, the lifting turned into a permanent descent. The very medicine intended to spark life was slowly suffocating the patient from the inside out, one cell at a time.
The apothecary's secret. Why did it take so long to stop this cycle of death? The answer lies in the ledger. Apothecaries were the kings of the high street, occupying a space somewhere between a modern scientist and a medieval alchemist. Behind mahogany counters lined with thousands of identical glass jars, they sold everything from toothbrushes to pure liquid laudanum. But their most profitable products were proprietary medicines, secret formulas that were legally protected from disclosure. Because there were virtually no labeling laws until the early 20th century, an apothecary could mix arsenic, opium, and cyanide into a single syrup, label it Mother's Helper, and sell it without a single question from the authorities. We have records of nerve tonics sold in 1894 that contained concentrations of prussic acid that would stagger a modern toxicologist. The apothecary's ledger was a record of slow-motion homicide. It showed the same families returning week after week, their dosages steadily increasing as their bodies built a fleeting, desperate tolerance. Because the symptoms of low-level cyanide poisoning, nausea, splitting headaches, and chronic confusion, neatly mirrored the very nervous conditions they were meant to treat, the patient never suspected the cure. They believed they were simply not taking enough of the medicine. This created the perfect, albeit accidental, business model. The medicine ensured you would always need more medicine. The brief, toxic rush provided by the cyanide momentarily masked the underlying exhaustion, creating a chemical dependency that looked to the outside world like a miraculous recovery. But the ledger told the true story. Beneath the elegant copperplate handwriting lay the names of the dying, paying for the privilege of their own destruction, 1 dram at a time, until there was nothing left of the patient to treat.
The legacy of the blue bottle. It wasn't until the early 20th century, with the rise of modern forensic toxicology, that the wonder drug was finally unmasked for what it was. Today, those beautiful cobalt-blue bottles are collector's items, housed behind glass in museums, stripped of their lethal contents. But they serve as a chilling reminder of a time when the line between medicine and murder was as thin as a glass vial. In the hunt for health, sometimes our greatest cures are just our most elegant killers. If you found this disclosure intriguing, open the next page of the ledger by subscribing. Next time, we investigate the radioactive water that promised eternal energy but delivered a glowing grave. I'm Apothecary Archives, and this has been the Poisoner's Ledger.